Hello again. I'm Joe Yudin, owner of Touring Israel Luxury Private Tours. We're still in the midst of the corona pandemic, and tourism is nil here in Israel and around the world. So I thought I'd bring a little bit of Israel to you since you can't come here. Today, we have a special guest, Inbal Baum, owner of Delicious Israel, the culinary expert of Tel Aviv. Hello, Inbal. How are you?
Oh, Joe, it's so good to see your face. We've talked a few times, but it's nice to actually see you. Obviously, we can't see each other in person right now, so this is a nice second choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good to see you. And the only problem is every time I look at you, I think about food, and I get hungry. Everywhere. Oh, there we go.
It'll get worse. I brought a little snack. We'll talk about it later, but I come prepared to make you hungry.
Oh, okay, great. So, before we get into it, why don't you tell us a little bit briefly where you come from, how you got to America, how you got back to Israel, why you started your company, and what exactly you do.
Sure, with pleasure. So my name is Inbal, which is a very Israeli name. My parents are both Israeli, and they came to the US before I was born. So they named me Inbal thinking we'd come back. So I grew up very connected to Israel because my experience of Israel was family vacation. Now, for anyone who's been on a touring Israel trip, you understand what happens. You wake up, you eat, you do an activity, you eat, you do another activity and you eat some more, and eating is obviously really central to our culture and our life here. And I was like, I have to come. I have to be back here. So it took a while. I ended up going to university in the US. I traveled the world and lived around the world for a while. And I was living in New York. I was practicing as an attorney. I was very unhappy. I'm sure there's a few attorneys out there who might identify. And I said, you know what, I need to do something that really fulfills me. And so I, about 11 years ago, packed up, came to Israel. And when I first moved here, I said, okay, what is it that fulfills me? And I spent a lot of time in that search. I worked in startup companies, which again, for anyone familiar with Israel, the startups here are really inspirational in what's happening in the startup scene. And after a while, I got to thinking, you know what, I'm ready to do my own business. And at the time, I didn't want to be behind a computer. I wanted to be people facing. So I did a lot of inner exploration, and I just thought about what it is that I love to do. And what did it come back to? Food, eating food, being around food, talking about Israeli food, talking about Israel. And I kind of had a little light bulb moment a number of years ago. A friend was visiting in town. We basically did what today I would call a food tour. And it happened. Delicious Israel was born 9 years ago, really as a way to bring people in. I mean, my friend said, you know what, I never would have found these places, and I never would have known to come back to this back street or to try this specific kind of food. So 9 years later, we now have, it's hard to say anything in the present tense because everything feels a little upside down, but we now have 23 guides, passionate foodies like myself who love to talk about Israel, who are leading our team and our tours and leading your beautiful guests around the country.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to continue along this. I just want to interject for a second. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago. I saw some tweets of you taking pictures in the Carmel Market in Tel Aviv, and I'm like, and talking about your food tours. And I'm a tour guide. I've been a tour guide for 20 years, and I know the markets very well. But you were showing me a different side of the market, and not just inside the market, but around the market. And we met, and you were a startup, and you told me about your vision and the little speciality places that you were taking to. And then I wanted to do your tour, and you took me on your tour, which was completely different than from what your average tour guide, even your fantastic tour guide would usually do. And I think the best thing about your tour are the off the beaten track places, but that it's all booked ahead of time. So when you get to one of these awesome places and there's a line out the door and everyone's doing their Shabbat shopping, they're just handing you stuff, and you're just, you know, we don't even have to go into these little hole in the wall places. The food comes to us. So, you know, I was really impressed by that, and knowing exactly where to go really impressed me. And we've been working together ever since. And, you know, it's been a real pleasure watching your business grow and us grow together.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's I really believe that when you're passionate about something, it comes through in what you do. And for me, it was really easy because in those years that I spent, I'm seeing the pictures come up here. These are the people who, you know, as a lawyer sitting in New York with my suit, it's a very different life to be out on the streets with, these are my colleagues, the guys you see me smiling with, and the guys in those pictures are I spent years just hanging out with. And the places that I take our guests are not tourist places, obviously off the beaten path, but more importantly, even maybe some of them are tourist places, but it's about the places that are delicious and the places that literally I go when I'm not on a tour and that I miss when I'm not touring, and the people that I want to spend my time with and that I want to support. You know, there were plenty of businesses over the years that would open up, I'd test them out, and I saw that they just weren't going to treat our customers with the respect that they deserve. And the ones that we go to, and the reason that they come out and give us that plate is because they're proud. And they're proud to share their food and their heritage and their stories and that's one of the beautiful things, getting the story, because you can walk around these streets. Anyone can walk around these streets, and I think this is the difference. A tour guide takes people to these places, and they're wonderful places to visit. They're kind of, you know, places. Here's a picture of the Levinsky Market of recent time that you can walk around and enjoy. But if you don't know that this guy, Amrani, has been, you know, it's a Persian family that's been here for over 60 years. And then you start getting the backstory and you start to understand who the people are, it just changes your picture of Israel. And I think both of us are really passionate about that important thing of showing people the whole picture, not just the good. There's plenty of things that we can show even within food that are not the most savory, you could say, but that give you that story of Israel.
Absolutely. So yeah, every person you take us to, every place we go to, we meet the owner, we get that backstory that you were just talking about. And there are dozens on your tour. Why don't you tell us? Jono had a picture up there of the sabich, which before I did your tour, I did not like. I really did not like sabich. I hated it, and the reason was I hadn't had a good sabich. And then I did your tour, and you took me. There it is. You took me to the greatest sabich place I've ever had, and I've eaten. You know, and ever since then, I've tried different ones. Nothing beats this place. Why don't you tell us? I know you don't want to give away all of your secrets, but why don't you give us just one story? I like this story. I think there's a lot of history and culture in it, and about the people behind it.
Absolutely. And I love this particular picture because you see all the elements that I'm about to talk about and how it really all came together. So sabich is a little bit less known. I would say a lot less known than the typical falafel, shawarma, things, the street foods that you see a lot in Israel, and that people, you know, when they come, I have to get the best shawarma. And then you say, well, let me take you to the sabich shop. And they're like, so what? So what is sabich? Sabich historically comes from Iraqi Jewish tradition. Now, I'm actually going to make a bold statement that in my view, and this is going to be a little controversial, and I look forward to the comments below after, in my view, this is actually the only food that I can say is an Israeli food. Now, that's a big statement. Let's unwrap that a bit. Israel's a very new country. A lot of the foods that we eat either were here before Israel was founded, and these are foods that we adopted, like hummus, falafel, things that we're very passionate about and are integral to our culture, but aren't Israeli by heritage, or things that came. We have this incredible diversity of immigrants that came here. So we've got Jewish immigrants that came from Morocco and Tunisia and Iraq and Iran and you name it, and of course Eastern Europe and Russia, and you name it, and they all brought their foods here. And we have this mosaic, this country with all different flavors and tastes. Now, when a lot of people, when I ask them, you know, what's Israeli food to you, a lot of people will say shakshuka. It's a very well-known one now. It's a tomato dish with an egg cracked inside. Shakshuka came from North Africa. It's not Israeli. We eat it every meal, every day in breakfast here, or anytime you go to a cafe and you know, you eat it all, but it's not Israeli heritage. So why is sabich, what I would say, Israeli? Is that it came, as I mentioned, it's an Iraqi Jewish, it came from Iraqi Jewish heritage. But when the Iraqi Jewish immigrants came here, they would have their Shabbat meal. Now, one of the beautiful things about all of these different immigrant cultures is they all bring their different flavors. So on a Persian morning Shabbat breakfast, you're going to see something completely different than my grandmother's Polish breakfast, or my grandfather who came here before the founding of the country, who had to have his salad every morning with his white cheese. And every Saturday breakfast table is going to look a little bit different. And the Iraqi Jewish breakfast table was sliced fried eggplants, hard-boiled eggs, salad, tahini, and this would all be a spread on the table. And you'd take it on your plate and you'd have it either with the challah left over from the night before or pita bread. And what someone said here was, wait a second, what's the most Israeli thing? Let's put it in a pita. Mm-hmm. You put it in a pita, you got your falafel in a pita, your shawarma in a pita, your schnitzel in a pita, you name it, you put it in a pita, it becomes Israeli. So if we put all these ingredients in a pita and we sell them like this, what's this new invention? So there was a guy in a town right outside of Tel Aviv whose wife was very smart, and she said, you know what, he's going to work and I want to put all the leftovers inside here, I'm going to make him a pita, it's going to be easier for him to eat than this dish. So people started coming to this guy. His name was Sabich. Sabich, give me Sabich, give me Sabich. So the dish became known as the Sabich sandwich. Now, so people challenge and say, okay, well, it's Iraqi. Not exactly, because if you go back to Iraq, it's not that they're eating it there as a dish as a street food. And it's not that there's very many Jewish people left there anyway to be eating this. So what came out of that heritage and transformed into the street food is only in Israel. So what is sabich? Right. We haven't even talked about it. Well, I said what's on the tray. Got the sliced fried eggplants, hard-boiled egg. It sounds very weird, right? It sounds like combinations that don't make sense, but once you try it, you get it. So you got the eggplant, the egg, salad, tahini, and a very important sauce drizzled on top, which is called amba. There we got it. There we have it.
Love the amba.
I miss my amba. I don't have it. I can't get it closed. So amba is a savory mango chutney. And again, there was a lot of movement happening. Jews moved over history, and the Iraqi Jews were living in India and they found mango. They said, how am I going to send it back home? And they started fermenting it, and out came this sauce, which is a beautiful, it's a really flavorful sauce that brings a tang into the dish. So so that's the sabich that you see right there, and that was born. And now you go to why this place? Very important. How do I choose my, okay, it's somewhere, you know, there's a lot of sabich places. Why this place? It's kind of a little bit hard to see, but the guy's a master. You will wait in line. If you come, you will wait in line forever, even if there's two people, because he makes each one so carefully. He layers it, because what happens in street food? You get a pita, you shove your falafel in, you shove your salad in, you put your tahina on, you take a bite, and you're only getting like one part of it. So he is making it so that every single bite, you're getting all of the different flavors in one. Sabich, you've been educated.
Right. Really, really good.
Mic drop, sabich drop.
And of course, again, you succeeded to make me very hungry, even though I've already eaten. So that's great. I mean, tell us a little bit about this market, the Carmel market, the Levinsky markets. There's a market in Jaffa that's ancient. You know, each market is very different, very distinct, and really different than the markets in Jerusalem, like the Machane Yehuda market. A lot of people, when I'm planning their trip, or Jono or Yogev are planning their trips, they say, "Oh, we only want to do one food tour. We just want to do the Machane Yehuda market in Jerusalem with Tali Friedman." And I'm like, "Hey, that's an incredible experience." But the Tel Aviv markets are completely different. It's a completely different taste. It's completely different food. I would really do both of them, and they're both lunch. So why not do those? Why don't you tell us a little bit about the difference between the markets?
Yeah, with pleasure. So, like you said, they're each so different. And some people say, well, actually, let me ask you, do you have a favorite?
No,
Favorite market?
really I don't, because I know every market that I go to, I eat completely different things, and especially in Tel Aviv. When you take me to Levinsky, and then you take me to Carmel, and you take me to Jaffa, totally different. And I love food. There's not a lot of food that I don't like, and so there's so much. The beauty of the markets, in my opinion, are the plethora of choices, and it's overwhelming. And without someone who really knows, you got to try this specific thing. When I go to Nazareth, I want my knafa, but I'm not going to eat that in other places. So, that's always good to have the particular expert in each particular market, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you kind of characteristically what each one is like, and then what's happened to them. So the Carmel market, just like the Machne Yehuda market in Jerusalem, was born as a fruit and vegetable and the grocery store, you could say. How would we shop here historically? How would my parents shop here? You wouldn't go to a big store and take your cart around. No, you take your trolley and you go to your apple vendor, and you go to your orange vendor, who's a different guy than the apple vendor, and you test each one. It'll be interesting to see what happens after now, because your part of it is like going and touching them. So we'll see how things turn out after. But it's a produce market and a basics market, getting your meat and your fish and your cheese, the things you need to cook at home, typically. Now, what's happened today? Tel Aviv, the hub of young, gorgeous, sexy Israeli high-tech people and hospitality people, are not cooking. Used to be. Everything has changed, Joe. Everything has changed.
Right.
They used to be not cooking at home.
Right.
And they would eat out. So what's happening then, if the vendors aren't selling to these people, what's going on? So the Carmel market, what happened is it attracted people who said, you know what, a great example is there's a meat shop called Meat Market. Very kind of hipster meat. They sell to all the best restaurants in Israel. And just around the corner from there, they opened up a shop, a restaurant, where you can go and you pick the meat and they cook it right there for you. Why? If you were to go and buy this meat and take it home, odds are you're going to ruin it. And ingredients aren't cheap anymore. That meat was not cheap, right? So you're going to take your steak home and you're like, oh no, I'm going to put it on the grill. You're going to try it and you're going to ruin it. So what happened? People said, just make it for me. Just please do me a favor. I want this beautiful meat, but make it for me. So they opened up a shop called a restaurant, which is now one of Tel Aviv's best meat restaurants, just around the corner, called M25. And that same concept filled up their shawarma is amazing.
Amazing.
And their tongue. Did you ever try their tongue?
No. Now I have to go back and try the tongue. Oh my God. But the barbecue, because every time I go there, I just get the barbecue shawarma. It's just such an amazing dish.
Yeah, and really different. And that's the other thing, is that they're innovating. The people who are opening up in the market area have to innovate. There's so much competition, and they have such beautiful produce at their fingertips. So even the cafes that are serving relatively standard cafe food for Israel, of course, it's beautiful for anywhere else, but let's say a great salad, they are buying their vegetables right here. They're buying their bread right here at the bakery. Everything is market fresh. So what the Carmel market has become a symbol of is really the beautiful market fresh food, but ready to eat. So, for example, I remember you and I went to a pita place right at the entrance to the Carmel market, which is called Carmel, by these young hipster, very hipster kind of young chefs who really could be in high-end restaurants. But instead they said, you know what? I love street food. That's what I want to make. That's what I want to eat. So instead of going to our wonderful fine dining restaurants, they opened up a street food shop, and they're finding the best meat, the best ingredients, and doing it very, very simply, but everything right from the market. So that's the Carmel market. Now the Levinsky market is a little bit different. The Levinsky market has a beautiful history going back to the 1930s, when a lot of the Greek and Turkish Jews were coming in and settling in this particular area, right outside of the center of Tel Aviv. At the time, it seemed like miles away, but it's right there, and there was nothing there. So they opened up shops. Now, ultimately, the city, it became part of the city. And in that area, just like if anyone's been to the Lower East Side in New York or East End in London, it had that similar vibe. This is the Pereg family. If anybody had spot in, I know they sell in the US, the Pereg spices, this is the woman. She's the owner of the company and sits in her little tiny spice shop every day. That was her family's spice shop. And so you can go there and get the best, the mentality about the Levinsky market. It's where the chefs shop to buy their dried fruits, nuts, their spices. But similarly, young people who couldn't afford to live in the center of Tel Aviv move outside. And at the time, this is probably 10, 15 years ago, outside was this area. Here, I just want to talk about this beautiful picture. It's the Levy family. They have a place called the Yom Tov Deli. And in this deli, this is now their third generation. So the grandkids from the grandfather who came from Turkey are now doing their traditional Turkish antipasti and meze kind of dishes. But on the side there, you see a lot of gourmet. And that's what you see a lot happening in Levinsky. The traditional meeting the new. Because they understood, if we want to survive and we want to provide the right things to our clientele, we've got to give them everything. We've got to give them the historical stuff that they remember, and that's their taste buds coming back for it. But we also want to give them the ingredients to be able to cook their gourmet dishes, which they want at home. So here's an example. This is my guide, Nikki, one of my delicious Israel guides, Nikki, giving a plate here, a beautiful plate of their antipasti with grandpa's grape leaves. His grandfather's 94, I think now, still rolling the grape leaves from scratch. We've got feta, basil pesto, amazing, beautiful things. But the important thing about this neighborhood is that you've got the cross section of history and hipster, and it's all the time in flux. Now, as these older generations, if there's nobody to take over grandpa's shop, here's another amazing picture of this platter. Oh, it hurts. I haven't eaten this in weeks. They are actually delivering. If anyone is in Tel Aviv watching this and wants to get this platter to your home, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got this kind of old and new together in one spot, and I think what makes it a little bit different is it's a very small area. You could easily walk by, if you walk by 5 minutes even, just to cross by this area. But if you understand the history, you get to open that door, and you get to see who are the people of Israel and what were they eating back then and what are they eating today. And you see there's a beautiful place in the Levinsky market that's selling a drink called gazoz. And gazoz also has a great history leading back to the beginning of before Israel, when Tel Aviv started in 1910, when there was a kiosk that sold this soda bubbly drink with sugary water. And there was a wonderful gentleman in the Levinsky market who opened up this tiny, tiny kiosk and said, you know what, let's make this artisanal. What does that mean? We're going to put in special syrups. We're going to make, I see here, it's probably summer season here because I see in there peaches and cherries in this sample of the drink that you guys are seeing. And the herbs on top, he takes his whole garden. It's basically a salad, a fruit salad, a salad inside your cup, but then you mix it with soda water. And it's a drink that you'll never have anything like it. Each one is made with love, and each one is different. The thousands times I've been there, I've never had the same one twice. So it's these little treasures that I read an article many years ago in the New York Times about food tours. He said you can know where to go, but you don't always know what to get.
Right.
And that's really the key about the Levinsky market, is you can walk there and it's nice, but you don't really know what you're supposed to get. So that's Levinsky market, which again, these are like babies. I love each one so much and so differently.
So, Inbal, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new project? I know you're going in a different direction. We're all under lockdown. People are cooking. They don't know what to cook. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, with pleasure. So it's, I'm not sure how, it's a different direction in terms of the methodology, but the core of it is that people want great food and they love to travel. So we started we're launching soon, a platform called Top Nosh. And Top Nosh is a platform where chefs and other food culinary experts can provide online courses that are private and one-to-one. So just like you and I are here chatting, it would be the same. So it's not group classes, and it's not a live video that you're watching like on Instagram Live. We're seeing a lot of people. Everyone today is a cook, and everyone today, is in their kitchen. And so this is, how do you get the most out of experts, the most attention, the best experience? Just like people are looking to your premium tours, people are looking for premium online experiences that they'll really get something out of. So we have been in touch, and we are very excited about a lot of the interesting chefs and mixologists and bakers from around the world who are offering really unique courses through Top Nosh. So it'll be an opportunity for people to have a wonderful, meaningful experience. It'll just be in their home now. And there's going to be an element there of top nosh.
Right,
nosh,
Top Nosh. I love it. I love the play on words. That's great. Why don't and I guess this kind of grew out of, I know you do these food tours, but you also do cooking workshops overlooking Tel Aviv and in this beautiful environment. So I guess that kind of grew out of this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Exactly. So we offer, as part of Delicious Israel, we offer an experience called Shuk and Cook, where we go to the shuk, which is the market, and we buy our ingredients, and then we come back and cook together. Now, what we learned in these experiences is that people want to get some skills, and they want to learn how to make pita and whole roasted cauliflower and go. It's been really beautiful over the past few weeks. A lot of people have been emailing saying, I finally got a chance to make that chicken shawarma that we made in our class, or I finally am playing with the pita recipe. So it's been a nice thing for people to actually get to use this, because otherwise they're so busy. And the cooking workshops are a way for people. I love this picture of her rolling out the dough. Looks like they're making babka, I think, in this picture, to get to know the food that they're eating outside, to really learn a few tips and tricks. But what we learned is that people want to have fun. Right, that they're here for the joy being together. This family, they are working hard all year, and they get this chance to travel here with their kids, which everyone's got their schedules and their classes and everything they have to do throughout the year. So let's give them this really, really memorable experience. So that is exactly how Top Nosh was born, is that we understood that while we're really, really excited for everybody to come back and to be in my kitchen and to learn with our chefs, it might take some time. And even there's a really beautiful thing that came from this, which is that even when things do come back, and it will, and we're looking forward to that time, that now people are getting used to and open to experiences online that they never would have been open to before. Right. So a cooking class with an expert online is something you do in my house when you come to Israel. Why not do it from your house in New York or in California or in Singapore? You can have that similar experience by having our chef come and give you that lesson while you're at home cooking and having a good time together. So this is the picture from our balcony with that beautiful whole roasted cauliflower. It's funny, because it is in my home, we got to enjoy the leftovers often because the families were staying in hotels. They wouldn't have anywhere to take it. So recently my husband was like, oh, we haven't had a pita, we haven't had our fresh baked pita in so long, or our chef prepared cauliflower. Like, what's happening? Right. Actually, for this call, I forgot it's been sitting here the whole time. The other thing that we've been missing so much is hummus, and I am used to, it's like part of my blood. And I actually ordered for the first time in this delivery. I never would have done this before, but times are tough. This delivery of Shlomo and Doron. It's one of our vendors' hummus, and because it's Passover, it comes with Passover bread.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. Wow. So
bon appetit. So Inbal, thank you so much. One of the things that Touring Israel prides itself on is picking the best vendors, the best activities to do, the best places to eat. And in every region in Israel, we have one particular vendor. After trying dozens, I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks they can do a food tour and a cooking workshop, and there are literally hundreds, maybe even thousands in Israel. And to choose the right one, it's not always obvious. And you're my go-to person in the Tel Aviv area, and I thank you for the long relationship that we've had. I think it's definitely growing, and we're going in other directions. And I really look forward to growing my business with you and yours. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us.
Thank you, Joe. I love it. I love your guests. I always know that if it's Touring Israel guests, I'm going to have a good time. My guides are going to have a good time, and they're people who understand food and want to learn and are just wonderful people. So thank you for giving that to us as well.
Terrific. I look forward to seeing you after this.
And thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's been fun chatting with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see you once this thing is over. I'm definitely going to go to M25 and get some that tongue dish, and maybe you can take me around and give me some other tips around the way. A shout out to Jonathan Rose, our tech guru producer, and Wendy Perrin, trusted travel expert for Israel. There he is, Jonna. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much. And we will next time. Thank you.